Konnichiwa, minasan. We are back for another episode of album discussions, and today we will talk about the album which just dropped 4 days ago. There was a bit of delay. I was a bit under the weather, dealing with some stuff. Didn't want to do it until I was in more of kind of a positive vibration to talk about it, but it was a very good release overall. I'm really proud of the album. Um, Sorry, there was an issue, I guess, with reconnecting. Maybe somebody else's internet, it caused it to delay and glitch. That's why I didn't want to continue in case I had to restart. Sorry. So after the Expressions of One's Heart, I did do a lot of tracks which didn't make the cut of the S.O.S. Brigade albums. Came Parallelity 1, Parallelity 2, and then pre cuts of what there was my songs that we're all like really connected to learning about manifesting. And oh, thank you, Abs up in here. Appreciate the support. Domo arigato. So yeah, actually, it's funny because I was watching one of your videos yesterday, the Haruhi Piano Collection. Really nice job with that video, by the way. There was Eric Satie near the end of it. I was like, oh, I see how they took inspiration from those compositions. It was really cool. I'm glad you posted that video as well. So yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second, just because I wanted to say that to him. As soon as I saw it pop up, I'm like, I gotta tell him that. I was just watching one of his uploads yesterday. But yeah, all the songs that were overall my favorite songs that all tied into the concept of Hitomi, I took those and I made the idea of a big bounce to the ideal reality. And that's a 10 track album, short, but really good. In fact, there were a lot of really beautiful jazzy compositions I did for that one, which reflected Japanese pop too, as well, with the titles like Nihon Ohime, like Japanese Princess, which a lot of people in the VIP fan club of Hitomi call her Princess, and she is kind of a beautiful fairy tale princess. She looks like it. So it's very accurate. And Nihon Ohime was a very beautiful, jazzy, kind of hip hop, Japanese pop sort of vibe to it. And then the other instrumental composition I was really big on too was Desire. Desire's just got some real to it. It's almost got like a funky, upbeat alternative rock to it. So I really love that. And that was kind of like the Desire being the strongest. So it has a really hype energy to it. And of course, all the songs on the record turned out really good. I was listening to it actually the day before the release just to get some insight about it. So now that I've reviewed some of my actual favorites, I honestly can't say that I didn't like any of the songs on the record because all of them were good in their own way. There were some really deep, powerful messages in all of them, and I could really hear the reflection of how personal development and studying Neville Goddard and the law of vibration, Bob Proctor, all these teachers who studied this, law of assumption, etc., all took an influence on this record as well. So the album starts out with the 1:05 long intro, the big bounce intro, which is a very jazzy intro that kind of, it sparks off the record because it's kind of like it's going from like the negative state of perhaps the reality I was currently in that I was shifting out of, hence the parallel realities prior to this. And then it leads into a very beautiful, peaceful kind of vibe that like kicks the album into overdrive as it starts off with the first song. Everything always works out for me, which is an affirmation that Abraham Hicks uses. One of my coaches and teachers, Mary Kate, actually recommended this affirmation. I notice it's a very good positive affirmation when you might go through struggles or things seem like they might not be working out. This is a really helpful affirmation. So this was actually the first song I did record for this record, and it was based on like the concept of that affirmation, and also sort of giving props and praise to a lot of the teachers that I learned from, because I learned from so many different teachers who taught me many different things at the start of my journey. And then also with Everything Always Works Out for Me, this was actually one of those songs where I made when I was still considering like that maybe Shannon might have been the one for me. It didn't end up working out, but it's almost like you see like the full shift from the parallel realities into this big bounce of the ideal reality heading towards Hitomi. And that's really why this song starts it off, because it's a big bounce. It starts off here and it goes through all the way to here. Right. So that was the idea behind that song. And then it leads into a cover of the Maria Takeuchi song, Let's Get Married, as it's called in English in brackets on her album Variety. And it was a beautiful song I used to sing all the time that I really loved. And I loved the alto sax solo on it. So what I did is when I did my cover, I played a tenor sax solo accompanying the alto, and also where there's just strings kind of leading into the instrumental break. Now, obviously, I'm not Maria Takeuchi. She sings it beautiful. I definitely recommend you all go check out her version as well. But I'm proud of the song because I feel like I did it just. And plus, it was the idea of wanting to marry my soulmate, be happy with the woman I love, and have a relationship like Maria Takeuchi and Tatsuro Yamashita. Like, I really love the beauty of their romance and their relationship, and it was very inspiring to see it. I've seen wedding pictures of them getting married, and all I could think is, see, I really have admiration and I'm inspired by Tatsuro, because not only is he this great artist, like the king of city pop, Japanese pop back in the day, the early real pioneers of it, and a master like singer, songwriter, and instrumentalist. So I take a lot of inspiration from him in that regard. But then he also got his dream woman, which is Maria Takeuchi, who would be considered like the queen of the genre as well back in the day. So yeah, a lot of admiration and inspiration came from that. And that's why I did my own version. Now I slightly changed the title just because she did sing the song fully in English, but it had partially a Japanese title. Now, because of these TuneCore restrictions, they wouldn't have let me call it by the characters attached to Let's Get Married in brackets anyway. So I called it Let's Get Married right away. However, I did give full credit to Maria Takeuchi being the co-songwriter because it is originally her song. I did change some of the instrumentation and arrangements around it and slight lyric changes to make it come from the point of view of a guy singing it, but other than that, it is based on her song. So I did actually give her full songwriting credit, just so I don't get sued or nothing. You kind of have to do that with TuneCore so that it's legal. Anyways, the next song we get into is called My Astrology. But one of the great records, like the great songs on this record, in my opinion, it's a very powerful song. Like, I really deliver some of my favorite rap lyrics in this song. And then the chorus is tying into sort of the idea of the universe being so grand and expansive, but also like relating to the idea of being Super Kami Guru Alucard. Like, Super Kami Guru comes from like the idea of parodying the great Grand Elder Guru in the Dragon Ball Z series, but being sort of like the leader of Namek. And I kind of looked at it as some people, they treat me like I'm from another planet. I'm not like the average person. I'm very unique. I'm different. I'm sort of out of this world. I'm wild. I'm out there. So sometimes I joke around and I say, oh, I'm not like from this planet. I'm Namekian, right? So it was kind of the idea of playing on that. And then like relating the idea too of like the universal consciousness being a combination of science, psychology, and astrology, like all these things, mysticism, all kind of combined into one. And the planet Namek defines my astrology, as I say in the song, because that was the idea of being really out of this world. And I've always tried to do that as an artist, especially since I first formed the identity of being Super Kami Guru Alucard. Next, we get into the track. Nihon Ohime, which I mentioned, is just a purely jazzy Japanese pop instrumentation sort of composition. And it's just sort of a very beautiful peaceful vibe. There's organ and vibraphone solos as well as saxophone accompanying the main instrumentation, which I composed. And it's just a very soft, still point in the album where you kind of see we're really leading towards the mark and moving towards what the idea behind the main chief desire or goal or dream is with the idea of this album that I'm focusing and moving towards, which is obviously Hitomi. And that's why it leads into the next track, Gratitude, because gratitude was such an important thing I had learned from all the different teachers. And by being grateful, you open yourself up to receive more abundance from the universe. So that's why I made a track dedicated to that. And it also, this is where I really start to introduce the concepts behind why Hitomi would be the chief desire, the dream, the goal, why I'm grateful for everything she did throughout my life, saving my life when I was in a really dark spot through her music, and having her autograph and all the sweet messages she sent me and positive encouragement on Twitter. She's a really sweet, wonderful lady. So the gratitude behind that and being open to receive more and build our relationship closer and closer together. From there, we get Let It Go to Let It Flow, which was a saying that I heard actually from Robert Zink, who I kind of moved away from his teachings because there were certain people that he worked with that I didn't really agree with. Togo. Because of that, like, I was a part of this group, but he ended up saying that I was disturbing and kind of insulted me. So I basically used Neville Goddard's law of assumption to assume that I was liberated and free of this group, which actually did happen. They tried to charge me money into my account, and I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I wasn't really supported, so I wanted to leave, right? Especially getting called disturbing and all these things. I felt like I had a right to leave. And, this was actually one of the successful times where I used the law of assumption because my account was in the negative balance and I assumed that things would work themselves out. Now, my mom actually did originally give me the money, which I did pay her back. She lent me it so that I could keep my account out of the negative balance. And oddly enough, the cool thing about this was I didn't actually need it, and I did end up giving her the money back. But the cool thing was I had got exactly the amount I needed reinstated in my account a few days after I had paid the negative balance. So it was like, not only did I pay off the negative balance, but I had actually gotten back what I lost in the long run. So the universe worked it out because I stayed faithful to my divine vision. These the obstacles, the barriers, like, kind of stopping the flow of it coming to you instead of just assuming like it will work itself out. It always does work itself out. I don't have to worry about it. The universe is taking care of me. It will handle this. I don't know how, but it's working it out in its own sweet way. And as Neville Goddard would say, every vision has its own appointed hour, its own time. So that's the idea behind Let It Go to Let It Flow. And I like the idea because it reminded me of like the Fat Joe song, You Gotta Flow, Joe. And that's why I like the idea. Like, that's actually what it reminded me of. So that was kind of a key inspiration behind that song as well. And the idea of being open to receive more abundance with not only, finances, my music career, but relationships and romances. And then this leads into the next track, Uta no Shimatani Hitomi, song of Hitomi Shimatani, to translate in English. Obviously, it's spelled in Romaji because that's tune course restrictions. You can't use Japanese characters. But a song fully dedicated to Hitomi, sort of like a gift for her on her birthday, because her birthday was the day that the album was released, September 4th. So happy belated birthday to the wonderful Hitomi Shimatani as well. And yeah, it's a very beautiful song because I'm talking about like imagining from the point of view of being in the future when I already would have this happy relationship with them, assuming that I'm married to them, what it would feel like, what it would be like to actually rap on a song about it. That's sort of the concept behind the song. And it's very beautiful, very harmonically nice. I really gave it that R&B vibe, which you hear that R&B vibe with my astrology. Everything works out for me, and Let It Go to Let It Flow as well. So very nice, positive, upbeat song fully dedicated to the wonderful Hitomi Shimatani. Next, we get into the composition I was talking about, the other one, Desire, which is the longest track on the record, which I'm pretty much just jamming out with my saxophone. I have organ and vibraphone solos in between as well using my keyboard app. Um, and just jamming out to the idea of moving towards the desire, focusing on the goal, not letting my dream die, and doing whatever I can to achieve it. And really funky, upbeat song. I actually really love Desire. In fact, when I was re-listening to it, I was actually really proud of it because when I was listening to it the other day, September 3rd, before the album got released, I was thinking to myself too, I was like, I don't know why, but the upbeat, funky nature of this song actually makes it one of my favorite songs that I've ever composed and played just purely instrumentation on for the saxophone. It's a really wonderful piece. I definitely recommend as one of the highlights of the record, definitely check out Desire because even though it's a lengthier song, it's quite good. In fact, this album actually broke the record of being the shortest album because it's a grand total of only 34 minutes. It said the connection is unstable again. Please wait while we try reconnecting. So hopefully people get off the internet so that I can finish my broadcast successfully without interruptions. I honestly hope I don't have to redo this. In fact, when I'm saying the connection is unstable, I get worried like, oh, is this cutting off what I'm saying? Is there going to be glitches and delays with the broadcast? I don't want that. I want to accurately tell my story without interruptions. So I'm really hoping that the connection will restabilize itself soon because this is already worrying me. Like I'm worried that it's going to glitch out and people aren't going to accurately hear me. Okay, thank God it went away. That really made me nervous. No instability here. Thank you for confirming that. See, it's popping up again, but I will take your word that somehow it's working out. I appreciate the update. Okay, so getting on to the last track because we all are almost done the summary of every track and basically what it was like to make it. I am, in brackets, my worthy ideal fulfilled, which is the idea of using Neville Goddard's I am statements as affirmations. And it was basically taking like the scripted letter I had written of all my affirmations, all my dreams, my goals, and my desires, as if they were already fulfilled in the present tense, which a lot of the law of attraction, a law of assumption coaches and teachers and manifesting experts all recommend you doing. And then a lot of them have said that you should record it, like record the audio of it and listen to it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm already a recording artist. I should just make it into like an outro track and make it like an actual song. So I did that. That's why I play a bit of saxophone at the end of it. And there's actually an audio sample of Hitomi saying, Aishiteru. I love you right at the end of the track, which kind of is the icing of the cake. Like almost like she's telling me she loves me. It's wonderful. It's great. And yeah, with that one, that was a very interesting track, which I do listen to every so often to kind of lift my spirits and get me in the mood of what it would be like if all my desires were actually already fulfilled. In fact, according to the law of assumption, everything is already fulfilled in the spiritual realm. So even though I might not see evidence of it, technically everything has already manifested itself. It does exist. It just has yet to be manifested in the physical 3D reality. It's sort of like to explain to people who are a bit new to this concept that don't fully grasp it. There's the idea of Schrodinger's cat, which it was the idea that something is but isn't at the same time. Like they could say the cat is dead or the cat is alive, and until there is somebody to actually perceive whether it is both, the possibility in the quantum field of physics remains that it is both simultaneously because there's nobody to confirm whether it is. Could be dead, could be alive. It depends on how you perceive it. Some people might see the negative aspect and be like, oh, no, that cat's definitely dead. Some people might be optimistic and hopeful and say, no, the cat could be very well alive. So it's the idea that everything exists simultaneously in the quantum field, even if it is not perceived in the normal actual reality which we are experiencing. And that's sort of the idea behind I am my worthy ideal fulfilled. living as though it was already true. And if it was already true, that's what it would be like. So describing exactly everything as if it had already happened, right? And that would be the ideal reality. So that's what the idea is. It's like the big bounce to the ideal reality. It's like, okay, if I had actually entered the ideal reality, I had manifested everything into the physical 3D, which I wanted. And I've already seen evidence of these things coming. So, the way I see it, if something can come and other things have yet to be seen, then it just means they all have their own gestation period. However, the law of relativity states that nothing is big or small, only our thinking will make it so. So that if there is evidence of one thing already manifested, which is Hitomi Shimatani's autograph, then there is just as much evidence to suggest that everything else is already done too. The universe is working itself out and everything is already on the way, which is very hopeful and optimistic, especially when you don't see evidence of it. Very nice to focus on that thought. Now, to wrap it up and conclude our presentation on this record, which, by the way, we will actually be doing another broadcast later on this evening to make up for our delay with the live Clo card readings that normally take place Tuesday. Today it will be 7 or 8 o'clock, depends on when we have dinner here. But depending on that, we will do our live Clo card readings later on this evening. So if people like tuning into those, if you want your fortune told, just comment gender, zodiac, and general future, romance, and of course, career, and I will get to your fortune told as well as my own. Read a bit of Neville Goddard, the usual, same old, same old. But for people who like attending it, definitely check it out. And yeah, back to what I was saying though, regarding the overall experience of this album, these tracks all were really special. They came from the heart. I really enjoyed making these tracks, as well as I was more proud of how a lot of these tracks turned out in comparison to how things turned out perhaps on some of the Parallel Reality 1, Parallel Reality 2. And both were very wild and experimental in their own way. I was definitely breaking ground and going to new heights and new depths as an artist with both of those records. So I definitely recommend checking them out. And of course, watching the videos regarding the album discussions about them if you're interested. And yeah, with the big bounce to the ideal reality, this record really, I was in a positive vibe and a very good state of mind when I was making every song. Like every song on this one, I actually had peace and quiet and silence to do every single song on this one. Unlike some of the ones in Parallel Reality, it was a struggle to make them. People were making noise, etc. But with this one, every one of these ones was actually made, luckily, when I had the entire house to myself. There was no background noise. Everything worked out really well in that regard. So very happy about that. And that's why I could say it was a very positive, wonderful experience making this record. Now, what's next for Super Comic Guru Alucard? Well, we are working on to the new album, the 10th solo album, A Point to Prove, which I will actually be going to the studio to record the next full-sung Japanese song, Koi Shiteru, this weekend. I actually manifested the means to go to the studio out of nowhere yesterday, and I'm like, oh, thank God that takes care of that. I get to go record that song, and it's a very beautiful song I wrote right around the time I wrote Boku mo Aishiteru yo, which thanks to everybody who has helped get that video over 3,300 views, my biggest music video and song on YouTube to this day. So we will keep the positive chain going. Now with this record, I will also mention that 4 tracks would be mixed and mastered by me. And as for the instrumentation, actually 4 were composed by me and the other 10 were done by Tone Jones. 10 of the tracks will be mixed and mastered by Daybreak, and some of them might take a long time to actually complete. So this album most likely will not be released until next year because I'm planning a trip to go to Japan around April. And saving up for that, it'll be kind of cost effective to just wait and do some of the other tracks with the guests such as Olga Chung and Reiko of Lolita Dark. Sorry. After I return from Japan, it'd be easier to do it. I'd have more money, etc. So I'm gonna hold off on doing those tracks. Probably won't get those done until I return from Japan after my vacation in April. But I'm gonna try and get as much done too before I go, like do a track here and there, the ones that are solo that won't be so costly, and obviously save for the trip to Japan as well. And as we work towards it, hopefully by next year, A Point to Prove will be finished. It'll be released. It will be a remarkable album. In fact, one of the songs I recorded with my buddy Retrospect, my protege, A Point to Prove, even just the rough mix, and another sweet to me that I actually helped out over there, called Japan is Where My Heart Is, where I give her some dedication. I actually rapped, made the beat, played some sax solos, mixed and mastered those ones myself. So those albums will, like this album will actually have some songs that are mixed and mastered completely by myself, whereas 10 will be handled by Daybreak. And that will add like kind of the contrast of production to it. But considering we really have an all-star well-rounding of like all the best people who had worked on all my previous albums all coming together full circle in this monumentous occasion of like I guess reuniting together, this album will actually be very phenomenal. I think in fact it might actually be my most daring and adventurous album ever. I mean, the fact that I'm going to be singing most of these songs in Japanese, some songs in English. One song I wrote where I'll be singing it mostly in Japanese. The chorus is half English, half Japanese. And then I rap the ending verse in Japanese. The first two verses, which are sung in Japanese. So very much bridging more into the Japanese pop. I mean, Boku mo Aishiteru yo was so successful and so good as a song. And since I really love Japanese pop, that's like my primary feel good, happy, upbeat music. That's why I've definitely decided with this album, A Point to Prove, to bridge more into the Japanese pop genre. This album's definitely going to be the most Japanese pop album of Super Kami Guru Alucard's whole career. Now, of course, that will be coming out sometime next year because it will take that long with the vacation to Japan and everything else to be completed. But I also advise people, stay tuned for the 5th S.O.S. Brigade Quartet album, Time for an Exam, which will be dropping in November, on November 25th, which is actually the day that Takako Mamiya, the great mysterious Japanese pop singer, released Love Trip before she vanished off the face of the earth. So we're releasing that album as the 5th of our group on that day. And I actually have talked with the guitar player of the S.O.S. Brigade Quartet, and we did discuss the possibility of making a 6th album, which we thought about if we did do it, we would call it the S.O.S. Brigade Quartet Sings the Blues. It would be a very bluesy natured album, but that is yet to be decided what the plan will be around that. But definitely stay tuned and keep an ear out for Time for an Exam, because that's definitely dropping November. And then I hope you will all be very excited, especially from the success, the positive encouragement of Boku no Aishiteru yo for A Point to Prove, which will have a lot more songs kind of catered to that sound and that nature of the genre. So now that we've concluded sort of all the updates of what's going on, all the new discussions, I hope everybody is very excited and will check out A Big Bounce to the Ideal Reality. Now, in the description, I did post the links to purchase on iTunes, Apple Music, support the record releases because it helps, you know, fun ball rolling, all this great music. And video to get the idea behind the record as well. So yeah, that concludes everything else I was going to say. And definitely stay tuned too, because around November, after the release, probably near the end of November, maybe last day of November, first day of December, we will come back for our next episode of Album Discussions, where we will talk about the S.O.S. Quartet's album, Time for an Exam, which had some really emotionally tugging and dark and disturbing songs, but was very beautiful in its own way. It's just that was actually where I was the most emotionally vulnerable and really tapped into that Billie Holiday energy as a jazz artist. So I hope you will all look forward to it. Until next time, thank you for watching. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Minasan, Super Kami Guru Alucard. Peace out. Mata ne.